Two people live in the same city. They start with the same $64,000 salary. They both say they're going to get serious about money. They both assume they'll figure it out later. Fast forward to age 45. One of them has a $340,000 net worth and a portfolio throwing off $2,000 a month just for existing. The other has $11,000 in savings, a credit card balance that's been hanging around for years, and a life that still feels tighter than it should. That difference is not luck. It is not crypto. It is not a rich uncle. And it is definitely not some secret side hustle nobody talks about. It is behavior. More specifically, it is a set of habits so boring, so unglamorous, and so aggressively unsexy that most influencers will never touch them. Because pack your lunch doesn't go viral. Drive the car longer doesn't sound exciting. Delete the shopping apps is not exactly luxury content material. But the math behind these habits is brutal. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly which of those two futures you're building right now. Before we get into the 20 habits, you need to understand something important. Most people do not have an information problem. They already know the basics. They know they should save more, spend less, invest consistently, stop impulse buying garbage they barely remember ordering. So if the information is not the issue, what is? Psychology. Financial education explains very little of actual financial behavior, because the gap between being broke and being wealthy is usually not about knowledge. It is about what your brain does when money shows up, stress hits, convenience gets offered, and discipline starts getting tired. So the goal of this list is not to give you 20 cute ideas. It is to remove as much willpower from the equation as possible. Because if your financial plan only works when you feel motivated, you do not have a plan. You have a mood. Habit 1. Audit your subscriptions every 3 months. Most people think they spend around $95 a month on subscriptions. The real number is often much higher, closer to $245. That is not just overspending. That is invisible bleeding. That is $1,800 a year disappearing into services you barely use, forgot about, or meant to cancel 3 months ago. And this is not an accident. Companies use friction design. Subscribing is one click. Canceling feels like applying for parole. That is deliberate. Open your bank statement. If you have not used a service in the last 30 days, do not pause it. Cancel it. Because money spent on things you no longer value is one of the easiest leaks to fix. Habit 2. Delete shopping apps. Impulse buying is expensive, and the problem is not just the money, it is the speed. Shopping apps collapse the space between "I want that" and "I bought that" into about 90 seconds. That is dangerous because people do not make great financial decisions in 90-second emotional windows. Deleting the apps does something simple but powerful. It makes spending inconvenient again, and inconvenience is underrated. A lot of bad spending disappears the moment you add 2 extra steps. Habit 3. Use the 24-hour rule. A shocking number of impulse purchases are regretted almost immediately. Because that need was never really a need, it was a dopamine spike wearing a practical disguise. Wait one day, that is it. Not forever, not deprivation, just one day. Most of the time, the urgency vanishes, and if the urge disappears that quickly, it was never worth your money in the first place. Habit 4. Have one no-spend day every week. This sounds small. It is not. A no-spend day is not just about saving $40 or $60. It is about identity. It teaches your brain that not spending is a normal state, not a punishment. Because for a lot of people, spending has become the default emotional response to boredom, stress, reward, frustration, surviving the week. One no-spend day a week retrains that. Habit 5. Never split payments on something that depreciates. Buy now, pay later is one of the most dangerous normal financial behaviors right now because it makes broke behavior feel organized. But financing shoes, electronics, furniture, or random junk is not smart money management. It is just debt with better branding. If it loses value quickly and you need installments to afford it, you probably cannot afford it. That is the truth. Habit 6. Pack your lunch. This is one of those habits people roll their eyes at because it feels too small to matter. It matters. A lunch you buy is maybe $15. A lunch you pack is maybe $4. That difference feels insignificant in the moment, but repeated over years, that is the part people miss. Because that difference, invested consistently, can turn into real money. This is what I call sandwich math. And sandwich math is brutal. Not because lunch is magical, because repeated small decisions become financial architecture. The person building wealth was often the one eating the sandwich, not because they were miserable, because they understood trade-offs better. Habit 7. Cook at home more than you eat out. Delivery and restaurant food destroy margin quietly, and people do not like hearing that because food is emotional. It is convenience, it is comfort, it is reward, it is, I had a long day. I get it, but the math does not care. If home cooking costs a fraction of eating out, and you replace even a few meals per week, the annual savings are not subtle, they are large. That is not deprivation. That is reclaiming money from autopilot lifestyle inflation. A lot of people think income creates wealth. It does not. Income creates opportunity. Behavior decides the result. There are people earning 6 figures right now who are still financially fragile, because a high income with weak habits is just a better funded mess. Habit 8. Track your spending, don't just budget. Budgets sound good. Tracking is what changes people. Because a budget is a plan, tracking is a confrontation. When you look at what you actually spent, patterns get hard to ignore, and that alone changes behavior. Not because you suddenly become perfect, because denial becomes harder. Habit 9. Drive a paid-off car longer than feels comfortable. This is one of the most powerful wealth-building habits in existence, and it is deeply unsexy. The average car payment is now so high that people treat it like a normal bill. It is not normal. It is one of the biggest wealth killers in modern life. A paid-off car gives you margin. A new car usually gives you a payment, faster depreciation, higher insurance, and the illusion that you're doing better than you are. The dealer is not selling you transportation. They are selling you a monthly obligation. Habit 10. Buy used for major purchases. For large purchases, used is often the smarter move, because the first buyer takes the ego hit, you take the discount. That applies to cars most of all, but also to plenty of other items people overspend on just to get the new feeling. New is often just a very expensive emotion. Habit 11. Never finance a depreciating item. Financing things that lose value fast is one of the cleanest ways to stay broke while feeling normal. A financed couch is not impressive. It is monthly rent on furniture. A financed phone upgrade every year is not convenience. It is recurring self-sabotage. If it goes down in value while you are still making payments, that should bother you a lot. Habit 12. Bank 100% of every raise. One of the best ways to build wealth faster is to prevent your raise from upgrading your lifestyle before it upgrades your future, because that is what usually happens. A raise comes in, life expands to meet it, and within 6 months, the extra money feels invisible. That is called lifestyle creep, and it quietly destroys progress. If you can live on the old salary, bank the raise, at least at first. Give your future self the first bite instead of your lifestyle. Habit 13. Treat savings like a bill. Savings is not what is left over. Savings is what gets paid first. That mindset shift changes everything, because when saving becomes optional, it usually loses. When saving becomes a non-negotiable bill, your entire financial structure gets stronger. Habit 14. Stop using rewards to justify overspending. Credit card points are not magic. A lot of people spend extra just to feel like they are winning the system. They are not. If you spend $10 more to earn $1 in rewards, you did not win. You bought a coupon with your own money. That is not optimization. That is rationalized overspending. Habit 15. Negotiate your bills once a year. This one is so boring it feels fake, but it works. A quick phone call can lower recurring bills that would otherwise keep draining you month after month. That is one of the best uses of 20 minutes in personal finance, because recurring savings compound too. Habit 16. Live slightly cheaper than you can afford. Not dramatically cheaper, not monk mode. Slightly cheaper. That one word matters, because living below your means does not require misery, it requires restraint. A slightly cheaper apartment, a slightly cheaper car, a slightly cheaper version of normal. That gap is where wealth grows. And over decades, small housing differences alone can create enormous financial separation between two people who earn the same amount. Habit 17. Stop treating yourself for surviving. This one gets people emotional. Because we have rebranded spending as therapy, I deserve it, I had a hard week, I need something for me. And sometimes, sure, but when that becomes a pattern, you are not self-caring, you are financially sedating yourself. That gets expensive fast. Burning through your margin just to feel okay for a few hours is not harmless. It is recurring damage with comforting language around it. Habit 18. Max the employer match first. This is still one of the easiest wins in finance. If your employer matches contributions and you skip it, you are leaving guaranteed return on the table. That is not a minor mistake. That is one of the clearest examples of avoidable financial leakage. Habit 19. Keep your emergency fund separate. Your emergency fund should not sit in the same account as your spending money if you are prone to accidentally using it. Out of sight matters because temptation matters. A separate account creates just enough friction to protect the money from random urges. Habit 20. Understand that income is not wealth. This might be the biggest one of all. Income is not wealth. Income is cash flow. Wealth is what you keep. There are people who never earned six figures and still became millionaires. Why? Because they had consistency, restraint, and time. Not image, not hype, not performance, just boring repetition. And boring repetition is one of the most underrated superpowers in money. Let's land this clearly. These 20 habits are not flashy. Nobody is going to call them inspiring at a dinner party. Nobody is going to make a luxury reel about driving the car longer, packing your lunch, deleting the shopping apps, saying no to lifestyle creep, canceling unused subscriptions. But the people who do these things consistently are often the ones who end up free. That is the prize. Not looking rich, not performing success. Freedom. That is what boring habits buy you. If these habits help you recover even a fraction of the money most people leak every year, the compounding effect gets serious fast. And that is the point. You do not need a miracle. You do not need a rich uncle. You do not need perfect discipline. You need a system that removes as many stupid decisions as possible. That is how ordinary people quietly build extraordinary financial lives. Remember Ronald Read. He was not flashy. He was not performing wealth. He was not impressive on the surface. He was just consistent for a very long time. And that consistency turned into millions. There is no trophy for looking rich. There is only the option to become free. Subscribe for more brutal math on building real margin. And remember, start building wealth, not the appearance of it. See you in the next one.